The life that came from restoring Mud Prairie. Today, my goal is to show you how planting and nurturing seeds in restoring a system changed my perspective on what is truly genuine in the role we play with nature in sustaining life. Let me first start by giving you a little background to how I came to the point of planting these seeds of diversity in the first place. My academic background is in agriculture and ecology. After college, I joined the Peace Corps. One of the locations that I served in was Mauritania, Northwest Africa. There I worked with farmers and extensionists to add new crops to expand their cropping system. After my Peace Corps experience, I started working for the Sangamon County Soil and Water Conservation District, first as a soil and water engineer technician, then as a resource conservationist, and finally as the best conservation management practice researcher. After the Soil and Water District research position ended, I spent several years working for the University of Illinois Extension as a Sangamon-Menard Logan 4-H unit coordinator and youth educator. I am now currently about to start my 6th year working with the Illinois Stewardship Alliance as their conservation associate and sustainable agriculture educator. But the job that I gained the most insight from started back in the early 1990s when I established my own Mud Prairie Seed Farm and Ecosystem Restoration Service. Being a person who likes to practice what he preaches, I also restored a 50-acre prairie ecosystem on this farm. The goal was to gain first-hand knowledge for what it takes to restore a healthy prairie ecosystem. The farm also has a 40-acre timber ecosystem and a 4-acre wetland ecosystem, as well as 60 acres of cropland to maintain. This keynote is a testimony to the life-altering truths that surface by first studying the restoration, then the application of its diversity to restore health to the ecosystem, and then the observation that came to the linked services that nature developed from this stewardship over the past 30 years. A key question that I want to answer today are, in what ways can you measure ecosystem services? Let me explain by listing and showing you some of the different categories of services that ecosystems provide. Just to let you know, all but just a few of the photos in these slides are taken from Mud Prairie Farms. The first category is provisions. This is measured by how clean, healthy, and bountiful the supply of food and drink remains. This slide shows you the fish, hazelnut, and clean water used and consumed on this farm. The second category is regulating. How well is the system maintained so that it operates properly? When turkeys first got established on this farm, they had no predators and quickly overpopulated the farm. Their damage to the cropland was measurable at that time. Then a cougar moved in, almost completely cleaned them out, and now the cougar's gone. The turkeys have made somewhat of a comeback, and today bobcats are established and keeping the numbers of turkey at bay. The third category is processes. This is a series of operations that take place to keep balance. The prairie fire is one of those processes that cleanses the unwanted growth from the prairie. Yes, humans can play a role in these processes. The fourth category is organisms. All life forms are connected and linked in the whole with interdependent parts. Above ground, the pollinators like bees and butterflies feeding in the prairie are examples of this in helping flowering plants produce seeds. In the soil, organisms function in the same linked way. The fifth category is habitat. These are natural homes and natural environments. The habitats are measured by how safe they are. The bottom right photo is a worm being born from an egg in undisturbed soil. How safe are the worm eggs in a heavily tilled field? Not very. Any tillage can destroy habitat. The sixth category is in subsistence. This means being able to maintain oneself. The different sources of food ripen in different seasons, from berries in the spring to acorns in the fall, which help deer to eat all year. In between the prairie and the timber ecosystems, I've harvested and preserved enough wild raspberries and blackberries to keep my family in pies all year. The seventh category is my favorite, outdoor recreation. You can't overlook the importance of outdoor activities have on our level of enjoyment and well-being. Hiking and swimming are my two daily favorites. The eighth category is education and research. Gaining insight or enlightenment in any field is important to understanding the truth. This slide is comparing water quality levels between the prairie pond and the cropland pond to measure the ecosystem services being provided by each ecosystem's watershed. Showing someone the truth is more effective than just telling them. The ninth category is nature-based artistic. This reveals natural and creative skills that are measured as to how aesthetically pleasing the system is to the senses. I have a watercolor painting group and several photographers that like to take photos in the farm's prairie. The 10th category is ceremonial. These are formal events of a religious or public nature. Here are a front cover from the local high school yearbook and the 80th year celebration of the oldest 4-H club in Illinois. Both groups chose the prairie for their recorded events. Proms and wedding photos are taken, and church groups as well as local Turkey Federation Jake camps have been held on this farm. The next measurement is to benefits from ecosystem services. In benefits, the first benefit are materials. This is measured by the amount of substances from which things can be made. Some of this furniture and the porch itself were built from timber grown and milled on this farm. The second benefit is aesthetics. The prairie, timber, and wetlands all have sights, sounds, and smells that are three-dimensional and aesthetically pleasing year-round to keep your senses flowing and measured by always wanting more experiences. The third benefit is place and heritage. When you spend time in these ecosystems, you get a sense for what once was and how it brings about a sense of everlasting peace from the benefit of connecting to an unspoiled countryside. This type of site makes a long-lasting impression. The fourth benefits are the activities. Whether reading a good book next to the sound of crackling campfires, or camping with the sounds of croaking frogs in the wetlands, or chattering calls from some great horned owls overlooking the prairie, these I measure as two of my most favorite pastimes. Spending time doing these types of activities connects us to our natural surroundings. The fifth benefit are the spiritual moments. Being in the right place at the right time is spiritual moments. It's like God is definitely communicating with you at that very moment. It can affect your soul or spirit in a way that nothing else in life can. I seem to get these moments more and more the healthier the ecosystem becomes. The sixth benefit are in spiritual moments that make you see things in a different light. It inspires you to want to do or even be more in life. This was a night when I was camping under a rare blood moon and Mars was its closest to Earth. What a once-in-a-lifetime view that night was. Makes me think of what I am missing whenever I'm inside the house watching TV for my inspiration. The seventh benefit is knowledge. course, having many diverse life experiences and seeing the outcomes helps me to better understand the dynamics of a living ecosystem. Mud prairie is simply a much larger, more complex, dynamic life form than I could ever be. In this slide, you see that a healthy prairie ecosystem was able to soak in a 5-inch rain while recharging springs deep in the soil and filtering out the pollutions from entering the prairie pond. All the while, the cropland pond could not function at that level, holding on to maybe 2 inches of rain, letting 3 inches pull pollutants across the surface, eroding soil along the way, and dumping it all into the pond from cropland. The 8th benefit is existence. This slide has relics showing that human cultures, as well as other prehistoric organisms, have found a continued support system to exist in the health of these different ecosystems on this farm. These arrowheads found on the farm span thousands of years in time, and some of the fossils date from the pre-dinosaur period. Identity is the 9th benefit. This slide has Wes King from the National Sustainable Ag Coalition and fellow soil health champion farmer Dave Moose and I on a mission to lobby to protect existing conservation programs in Washington, D.C. Dave and I both use these programs to better the health of our working lands on our farm's ecosystems. Farmers need to be at the front line in protecting soil health. The 10th benefit is employment. Giving work on the farm in the form of stewardship to protect the different ecosystems, soil and water, as well as educating others about these benefits, has been my life's service. I must say at times the pay was not that great, but the benefits of working with nature can be measured as priceless. The final ways for us to measure the ecosystem services is in the characteristics of their value. This focuses on principles, ethics, morals, and standards. The first value is in preferences. This means the precedence, priorities, or just the pride of place. The initial priority in restoring the prairie was to protect the pond from filling in with soil from the cropland erosion. The established prairie ecosystem holds on to flood events so much better than today's cropland ecosystems, it's amazing. Now, the farm's prairie pond has become the protected jewel in the center of Mud Prairie. The second value is in the principal virtue. I am focused on being a good steward of the land and water because I truly want to leave this place in better health for the next generation to take over. This value is in the center of my belief and value system. The third value is in being self-oriented. My mission in life has been simply to plant and nurture seeds, be it in the ground or in the minds of individuals that I come in contact with. My strategy has been to make the healthiest soil or work environment possible and placing the new seeds so that they have the best contact with information or the soil and air and water it needs. When I have done these things, I have had the most successes in growing towards my most potential in life. The fourth value is being non-self-oriented. Collectively working with like-minded groups is a key part of the word alliance in Illinois Stewardship Alliance's mission. Using our collective connection to inputs in a system based in stewardship makes a wider, larger, stronger, and healthier environment to grow and function in for all of us. Today's Soil Health Summit is a prime example of the value of a large group of like-minded individuals functioning in a non-self-oriented mode. I want to thank all of you professionals for this great opportunity to make a lasting impact on the health of Illinois as well as the Midwest soils. The fifth value is in being an individual. This farm has been my canvas to paint, plant, and create my own unique individual landscape that I feel I have been truly blessed to be raised on and then to raise my own family. This farm is an extension of who I am. The sixth value comes from a holistic view. Being intimately interconnected as one whole living system is something that I have come to understand and foster after years of observation and application to life's experiences. This slide is connected to my second most life-altering experience during Peace Corps in Northwest Africa. This region had sustained a system of living in the same way for over 10,000 years. Over 80% of the culture's population was and is involved in agricultural production. Then in the mid to late 1980s, they had 3 consecutive years of no rain, causing widespread famine. It was later recognized as a classic product of global warming and climate change. How a culture that was so connected to living within the laws of nature and still be devastated by a global cause that we all took part in is a holistic effect. The seventh value lies in the metaphysics. Good and evil, right and wrong, are what we as humans have always struggled with in our plight to live the good life. It was recorded in history that when the first Native Americans saw the settlers plowing over the virgin prairies, they stopped them and said, "That won't work. You have it all upside down." In their minds, the settlers saw plowing as a necessity. We now understand breaking ground in this manner as an environmental issue. The eighth value is final, allowing no further doubt, absolute binding. We continue to see stronger, longer-lasting, more frequent fires, droughts, and flooding caused by changes in our climate, and the forecast is that it's only going to get stronger, longer, and more deadly. It seems, in light of these natural circumstances, now would be a good time to make changes in the way we regard the health of our living, giving soil and water to ensure our survival moving forward through the next generation. The ninth value is transformative. This is a shifting or growing period in changing a way of living. Warning, it has been my observation from my work experiences that this type of change comes with a period of chaos, followed by the transformation. Over 40% of the Earth's land that were once in healthy ecosystems are now in some form of intense monocropped and high chemical use cropland system. Most of these monocrop systems have been in place for several decades now and are now leading to soil degradation and water quality degradation worldwide. We now recognize that we all need to make a larger commitment to change in the health of our food production systems. The last value is physical. Swimming in a spring-fed pond has a clean feeling like no other. No pollution, no chlorine, just pure, clear, cold, cool water leaving you feeling refreshed and alive. Most people that have not experienced this for themselves just don't quite understand. While nearly 70% of the world is covered by water, only 2.5% of it is fresh. The rest is salt ocean-based. Even then, just 1% of our fresh water is easily accessible, with much of it trapped in glacier ice. In essence, only 0.07% of the planet's water is available to drink and irrigate for food, for its 7 billion people. The physical fact is we need to do more to protect our most precious life-giving resources, the healthy soils and clean fresh water. Why cropland restoration? It is time for me to make changes to my cropland system so it too is protecting the cropland pond. Today our ponds, streams, and soils are having a hard time sustaining aquatic and soil life. As humans, we are having a harder time sustaining a disease-free life in our culture. The fact is, if you want to measure the cost of not having healthy ecosystem services, just look at the life that came from not restoring the health of the cropland pond sooner here on Mud Prairie Farms. My youngest son has been plagued by a range of different autoimmune diseases his whole life. I myself am living with cancer. Not to mention the mental stress these issues have on the entire family. In my farming community, these health issues seem to be becoming the norm for society. Science is showing evidence linking our health to the environmental impact that our farming system has had over the past 50 years. The food that we consume on a daily basis is linked to the way we have expanded efficiency for profit over these past decades. Cheap food prices come at a cost. The environment our livestock and crop are growing in affects their health as well as ours in the quality of food we consume. The chemicals we use on the livestock and in our crops affects the overall environment as well as the safety of food we eat. We need to make changes to the 40% of Earth's cropland simply to sustain any chance at all of a healthy life for our grandchildren. We need to invest more energy into learning how to better mimic nature while growing food on our farms. We can start by adding the value of diversity to our cropland systems. The key here in sustaining all life is diversity. Diversity champions and sustains the necessities in life. The center photo of Mud Prairie has 28 flowering forb species, 7 grass species, and 3 woody species that I added and planted to make it a healthy ecosystem. My cover crop mix on the right has 4 grass species, 3 brassica species, and 4 legume species, and the photo on the left of a filter strip has added 5 woody species that are also a food source. In provisions, every field needs more food diversity in what we grow to support a different weather condition that is needed to grow a good crop. Having a multitude of crops that grow and harvest at different times of the year provides a balance and protection to different climate conditions like drought, frost, and flooding. The recent announcement to fund grants to aid in the expansion of new specialty crops in Illinois by the Illinois Department of Ag is a good step in the right direction to this sustainability. Regulating how we plant and nurture our crops affects the regulation of overall health to the external system that all our crops will grow in turn affecting the balance to climate change. If plant residue is added to the soil, the surface of the soil, at a faster rate than soil organisms can convert it to CO2, carbon will gradually be removed from the atmosphere and stored or sequestered into the soil. Tillage speeds up the release of CO2 and carbon. Supporting. Giving more year-round support to the entire cropping system is a more natural system than just growing one type of crop for only half of the year and then leaving it all void of life for 6 months. This will inevitably degrade the health of the entire ecosystem. We need to support the health of and habitat of all the system's organisms and not just the one type of crop. In habitat, all living organisms need a safe and natural environment to grow in, and especially for our food sources. We need to develop a more nature-based food production ecosystem on the land that has abundance in benefits and values to the environment at all times. This is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take a better understanding of how to balance ecosystem services with a healthy food production ecosystem. As a culture, we Americans have disconnected our lives from what truly sustains us, our soil and water. In 1840, 70% of the American workforce worked in agriculture. Today, it's less than 2%. And as for Americans that at least have a garden, we're at 25%. As a culture, we all need to better connect our lives to the soil and water in this fragile life-growing biosphere. In doing so, will we not only play an important role in sustaining the health of our food, air, and water, but the health of our food and well-being of all organisms, including you.